Therefore, the Montana Griz, who looked the complete part, may in fact be your best team and your national champion at the end of the season.
Welcome to the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation with your hosts Kyler Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation, no more hypotheticals, no more thoughts after a few games in week 0. We had a full slate, a full plate of FCS football, so we can actually react to reality, and we figured a few things out maybe after a chaotic week 1. Welcome back to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Kyler, Jamie, Matt, I am back after my trip to McNeese. No, not McNeese. I was in Las Vegas, but hey, guys, you probably noticed something different if you're watching on YouTube. I am rocking some McNeese, as the sticky note said in my little box of gifts. It said, hey, we are not McNeese, we are McNeese, from Richard, one of the best fans we have on our page, Richard LeBlanc, who loves McNeese football. He reached out to me. He said, listen, how come nobody ever wears McNeese stuff on your podcast? And I said, we don't have any. And he said, I'm going to fix that. And he mailed me the coolest things. I've got the McNeese logo hanging back here. I've got my little ornament here for my desk. And now I have this awesome hat and shirt. So lesson learned for fans out there. If you want your gear rocked on the podcast, you just got to send it. McNeese Cowboys played pretty dang well early on against Montana State. So I had to get a shout out to Richard, who sent me this awesome gear. Enough about my life. Jamie, Kyler, I missed you guys over the week. Loved your podcast. How do you feel after your first week of FCS football and a sunny week for you, Jamie Williams?
Yeah. Excuse me. Stretched out a little bit.
What a dick.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't find anything to wear. I was trying to wear the shirt of a team that won this week, but I wasn't wearing NDSU yet because no. SFA, they don't count. They also lost. I couldn't find my Eastern hat. Everybody else I have, they stunk. So, shameless plug, if you want me to wear your stuff like Matt, reach out, because if your team wins, I'll wear it. I don't have anybody to wear. So the sun rises as I'll put it into the bucket for Frisco. We put a pop on Middle Tennessee, but I still paid attention to the FCS, as you'll see as we go through. Paid attention, watch everybody's team on the screen win. But hey, maybe next week we can talk FCS and talk JMU because we played Norfolk State.
Oh, yes. You can bring the Dukes back in because there's actually FCS involvement. But congrats on your first FBS win, a big one over Middle Tennessee State. And Kyler, a victory for your Eagles as well before we get here into the Big 7. Feeling pretty good as you defeated the Eddie Georges.
Yeah, it's about what I expected would happen. Pretty similar game. The question marks I have all been answered. Some of them positives, actually a majority of it positives, a few negatives, right? It definitely was not a perfect game. Doesn't look like we're a title contender, but we're still going to be a tough team for a lot of programs, at least on our schedule. So we'll see. But just to clarify, Jamie, SFA did win this week. They lost to Jacksonville State big in week 0, but they did beat Alcorn in a comeback.
Right, yeah, but they still had lost, so that doesn't count.
They still had lost.
Only beating Alcorn by 4, that's a loss. Sorry, Rev.
The Jamie Williams stinks are coming down. We're going to get some stinks from some teams, but some teams deserve kudos, and we might talk about a few of them here in our main topics, rolling right into the Big 7.
The top 7 FCS topics of the week. This is the Big 7.
Speaking of the Big 7, we should talk about some big surprises. Again, if you're new to this podcast, every single question is brought to you by a FCS fan on the FCS Fans Nation Facebook and Twitter pages. We get questions on Sundays from our fans, so make sure you follow those pages and look for the post. If you ask it, we're going to answer it. So no excuse for your team not to be mentioned. And we will start with another guy off to the FBS. Bruce Edmiston's going to kick us off here, guys, with the first question of our main 7 this week. And it's a simple one. He simply asks, which week 1 game was the biggest surprise? And this is such a good question to kick us off because there were so many surprises and chaos. And we were kind of discussing those before the podcast, Kyler. And which one right off the bat makes you think, man, this is the surprise that really threw me off?
Man, the one that really threw me off, let's see here, because there's actually multiple games that I kind of want to chat about. But if we're looking at the one that maybe threw me off the most, Houston Baptist. Just rolling through Northern Colorado. Now, naming those two programs' names, you probably are like, why would that be any type of shock, right? Two really bad programs facing each other. The difference was last year, they played each other. This is a home-and-home series. Northern Colorado boat raced them. It was like the only game where Northern Colorado looked like super studs. They won like 44-13 or something. And then all of a sudden, Houston Baptist just returns a favor, which I was not expecting that. I thought it'd be a close game, 50-50 game either way. But like for a while, Houston Baptist was in a whole bunch of control until, Ed McCaffrey decided, hey, my son Dylan McCaffrey, it's not working out. Let's go to one of our other quarterbacks. And then they had this fourth quarter comeback, but it was just a little bit too late. If there was a fifth quarter, maybe Northern Colorado could have maybe, sealed the deal. But it looks like that program has a lot of issues. They had over 20 players leave this offseason, not because they graduated, just because they weren't feeling the program, it seems like. And this was Northern Colorado's easiest game on their schedule, and they just lost by 12, which means I don't know if they can even round up a win this season. They have 2 winnable games coming up on the rest of their schedule, and even those winnable games don't look very winnable right now. So, yeah, that's kind of my shock. One of about 15 shocks.
Yeah, that's the thing is you got to break it down. There's about 15, 20 games you could pick here. So the categories are difficult. Jamie, you have one that's more obvious, or that was a really good one too, Kyler, because we might be looking at a 0 dub there.
No, I feel like there's a couple of obvious ones that we'll probably talk about later. Like Kyler said, there's a lot we could talk about, but I'm going to kind of highlight a couple teams that lost that we're still proud of. St. Francis is the first one. Thursday night, went in, was playing toe-to-toe with Akron, an FBS team. I know Akron stinks.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Undercuffler transferred to Akron, couldn't even be the starting quarterback. But they just not good. San Francisco hung with them all day.
Yeah.
Made it to overtime, and darn it, threw an interception in the end zone. The other one, similar. You got Bryant, a new member of the Big South, all the way out in South Rhode Island. Took Florida International to overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And that game shouldn't have got there. Florida National had 4th and 16, throws the ball over the middle. I don't know if the guy's going to haul it in, but gosh darn it, if the safety doesn't just launch himself, get a targeting penalty, and off to overtime they go. Bryant scores, kicks extra point. Florida National scores, and they hit the 2-point conversion to win the game, and embarrassingly, their fans stormed the field. So, awesome. But I just want to highlight a couple of programs we don't talk about, but look good against FBS teams, get them to overtime. St. Francis and Bryant.
I like it.
And we're really, if you're new to the FCS Fans Nation podcast, you're going to learn a few things. You're not just going to hear about NDSU and JMU all the time. Yeah, we have to talk about them, of course, because, well, not JMU anymore, but NDSUs and your others. But it's good to recognize some of the other programs who really had some surprises this week. Very impressive. I don't really want to tiptoe into my mentality here because the next 3-4 questions, I don't want to talk anywhere into it because really my answers will be the next 3-4 questions in terms of my biggest surprises. So let's roll a little bit more in depth, though, in terms of some reactions from this week, more related specifically to the FBS versus the FCS matchups. And Everly Richards and Cody Werlinger want to know which of the teams that had close losses to FBS programs were you guys most shocked or impressed by? So, okay, no upsets here. We're looking for just the teams that were really close on the fringe ended up ultimately losing. Which ones were you guys most shocked or impressed by? And I have to say, I'll just kick it off with saying I was shocked by SDSU and Iowa. I know Iowa is not known for offense, and we're going to get into this game a little bit more in depth. But if you would have told me that there would be 0 touchdowns in that game, I mean, the vaulted SDSU offense, which is all people have talked about, when I have said their front seven is going to be nasty good this year, but I expected them to come out with a little bit more than 3 points. And then even Iowa on flip of the coin, only special teams points, a safety, field goal. I mean, just unbelievable that it would be 7-3 with no touchdowns. So I was shocked by that one. Impressed by, not so impressive there. But I would bounce back to Jamie for your Bryant answer and for your St. Francis for a while. Those are programs I would never in a million years pick to be that close. But certainly shocked a little bit by that Iowa SDSU score. Kyler, do you have any ones that you want to bounce off where you're just like, hey, props to you guys. I did not anticipate you doing that well.
Yeah. So there's kind of two that we're focusing on, the ones that played FBS that did not get the upset, but at least played extremely tough, correct?
You got it, man. Yeah, we're looking for like you got close, but you just couldn't pull it off.
So I have two that I want to talk about. One of them, Idaho, Washington State, right? You're only going to think I'm referring to Big Sky games, but there was just so many craziness. But Idaho, who thought that they were going to be within 7? Like, I was actually rooting for Idaho. I told all the Tubbs guys, Chris Hammond, I'm like, please give WSU hell. Please beat WSU. But I also said, but you're going to lose by 35 plus. They went toe-to-toe. Now, it was not an offensive game. Cameron Ward looked okay. He didn't look great. Idaho's offense didn't look good. But defensively, Idaho was sticking it in there. WSU kind of screwed themselves a little bit from some of their own mistakes. But first-year coach, right, Jason Eck came in, and they led a Power 5 team who was like 7 wins last year in WSU. Really strong defense, improved their offense on paper. And we thought WSU was just going to absolutely torch Idaho, and they lost by only 7. So that was really impressive. The other one that I want to refer to, Eastern Kentucky versus Eastern Michigan. Like, Eastern Michigan is not a powerhouse. I see Jamie's reaction, so I apologize. Eastern Michigan is not a powerhouse, and Eastern Kentucky seemed to be building something pretty well last year, right? They were just an outside the fringe playoff worthy team. They got within 7 points again. There was a lot of very close FBS, FCS upsets. We just didn't get it done for a majority of it besides the CA. But yeah, that was a really good game. And for a moment, I was like, man, Eastern Kentucky, they may be able to pull this out. And of course, they just didn't, kind of fell apart at the end. But what a hell of a performance by those two programs. Yeah, I like it.
It might just be our takeaway from the week, honestly, is like we can recognize those teams that pulled it off, but I don't know if we've had a week since we've been doing this podcast where it's like, man, these so many FCS teams, whether you view them as bad FCS teams, middle tier good ones, were so dang close. I mean, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady don't mean a thing without the ring, but at the end of the day, the fact that that level of competition was even close, and great shout out there on Idaho as well. That's one that I kind of spaced, but I shouldn't have. That I could not believe when I saw the score at the end how close that was. And Chris had been hammering that rivalry. And, yeah, it's a 92-year rivalry or whatever it is, but is it a rivalry? Yeah, it's a dang rivalry, especially if you get that close. And shout out to Coach Eck, who we'll talk about a little bit later here in the podcast. Jamie, did we leave any scraps for you, man? Is there anything left out of this question from Everly and Cody, or is this about it?
Yeah, no, there's a little bit of meat still in the bone, although I figured I was going to be able to go off the board with Eastern Kentucky, but that's why Kyler's on the podcast, because he pays attention. So there you go. I want to give a little bit of a look to Elon, who I didn't think was going to be all that good in the CAA, but they, after a tough first quarter, hung with Vanderbilt, who had just obliterated Hawaii in Hawaii the week before. So I know it's Vanderbilt, but it's still a Power 5 FBS team. So 42-31, that was the final there, but Elon actually outgained them. Matt McKay, I guess he missed home, came all the way back to North Carolina. 333 and 2 touchdowns through the air, 13 carries, 52 and 2 on the ground. So starting off well in place of Davis Cheek. So Matt McKay, he might be a difference maker there for Elon. So I just want to call them out in a close loss to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, there's There's two other games I at least want to throw a couple props if we have a time.
Oh yeah,
One of them
let's do
mainly
it.
because I just want to see Jamie's reaction. Richmond played really solid against Virginia. They didn't win. It was still a 17-point game, but I thought that was a gutsy performance. And I know Richmond sucks. It's 850 and Richmond still sucks. But I thought that was a hell of a performance. And it's Jamie picked them to win the conference. And I kind of didn't agree. And after watching that, yes, a 17-point loss. I get it. I think they can compete in the CA. I think they're definitely in the running to be one of the favorites to win the title. So, that made me believe in Jamie a little bit more. The other one where you're not going to think is that sexy of a pick, Cal Poly versus Fresno. Again, it was a 35-7 game or something pretty close to that. So looking at the scoreboard, you go, gross. But we have to remember where these two teams were last year. Fresno State was amazing. They were a really good Mountain West team, and Cal Poly was getting beat by all of the good teams by 50. The FCS, not the FBS. So Cal Poly, they were having amazing defense against Fresno State. The game was a lot closer than the scoreboard showed. I will say that. It was a pretty not evenly matched game, but Cal Poly definitely showed that maybe they had significant improvement over the last few seasons under Bo Baldwin, and maybe he's finally starting to get some of his recruits. I don't anticipate many teams holding them to 7 points this year, and if they could hold Fresno State to just 35, they're going to be able to do some damage maybe in the Big Sky. They're still a few years away, but those ones, I wanted to at least give them props because the scoreboard doesn't look like they were good games. They were actually pretty good games compared on who they played and what they were last year and how we should be able to expect them performing this year.
And real quick, we might as well just stay in the Big Sky and just give a shout out to Portland State. They lost with about 2 minutes left.
Yep.
Yeah, very well said. I hate to say it, but yeah, UND, same bucket.
Yeah,
they were tied 17 going into the fourth.
Played good.
I know, Bison fan. Nebraska, and you're tied 17 going into the fourth. Just ran out of gas and gave up a few touchdowns all the way through the fourth quarter, but 17-17, everybody was freaking out on the page. So shout out to all those teams who likely should have a lot of motivation going into the next week and into their out of conference and into conference play, which is cool. Speaking of teams we should be impressed by, I have to be completely honest here. I did not see the final score. I just know that Incarnate Word won. I Googled just now Incarnate Word and SIU, and I thought a basketball score popped up. And I'll share it here. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the best way to watch us here. 64-29. I just thought the worst SIU basketball team of all time lost to Incarnate Word. 64-29.
It was insane.
Incarnate Word defeats Southern Illinois, both top 25 teams. This would have been my score prediction and Incarnate Word winning if I had been on the pod last week to pick this game during the pick'em, but I wasn't here. It would have been my exact pick. Okay.
Yep.
The reason I'm bringing this up, guys, is because Mr. Brandon Owens from Cocky Nation, the podcast on the FCS Fan Station Network, he asked, with the first major dominant upset happening this year, will UIW be more surprising than we thought, possibly picking up a seed in the playoffs? All right. So Incarnate Word, they lost Cameron Ward, but hey, looks like they're not taking a step back at all. Jamie, does this just blow your mind, or what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely blows my mind. I had Southern Illinois very highly ranked coming into the season, and Incarnate Word just on the outside because of that. They lost the head coach. They lose Cam Ward. Sure, they get Lindsey Scott, but I'm thinking, okay, it's not an upgrade for sure. So I figure Incarnate Word's got an uphill battle, and boy, did I eat my words. I mean, Sam Herder's been on them all off season. I probably told him to his face he was crazy. And shout out to the FCS Triumvirate group. Those guys, I know at least one of that group is an Incarnate Word fan. Stayed high on them, but gosh, 6 touchdowns, 391 from Scott there, as you can see, and just complete obliteration of a team a lot of people thought was heading in the right direction, and Southern Illinois clearly is not heading in the right direction. Maybe Incarnate Word is, and the Southland better be on alert, because that's one heck of a performance. But Brandon asked, is a playoff seed possible? Sure, if they have a bunch of games like this, yeah, but I don't know that they're going to have the juice to get there as a playoff seed. I know it's an easier conference, but that also could come back to bite them at the end of the day. But surprising start for sure. Definitely got to give them credit for being ready to play and putting a woodshed whooping on a good team, or at least a team we think is good. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, you put 6 touchdowns with your quarterback against a team like Southern Illinois, and I wasn't as high in Southern Illinois this year, but I still think they're capable of being a top 30 team. And holy moly, like that's an absolute obliteration of a score. It's not even remotely close. And on YouTube here, we have pulled up Incarnate Word's upcoming schedule. You know, they're going to go to FBS Nevada. Hey, Nevada maybe had a year or two here in the past 5 years, but who knows what could happen there. You know, Cole Kelly's gone from southeastern Louisiana. Of course, they're going to play Nichols, Lamar, and these others. Texas A&M Commerce is a new FCS team. They're going to get to play them. That's not a D2 game. I don't know who Faulkner is, who they play on October 22nd, but, you know, the fact of the matter is maybe they only have one loss coming out of it. Maybe it's only FBS. We'll have to see how it goes. I think a playoff seed is definitely within reach for them. Kyler, that a possibility? And are you over the shell shock of what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, first, what a performance. I am totally fine eating crow when I am wrong, right? I thought there was no chance that Incarnate Word was going to be potentially better than they were with Cameron Ward. I don't think last year's Incarnate Word team beats Southern Illinois. So, I mean, that's kind of, it was a shocker, especially when you see it that lopsided. Looking at their schedule, man, Nevada barely squeaked by New Mexico State, who's a notoriously really bad FBS program. If I'm Nevada, I'm worried. Then you got Southeastern Louisiana, SLU. Their offense looked pretty stagnant. They did play Louisiana last week, so we'll have to see. Sometimes, you know, when you're playing a G5 team, sometimes your offense just doesn't get clicking. But looking at their schedule, I would be shocked if they're not favored in all but one game. And I mean, I didn't like that Nevada pick before the season. After seeing this performance, I'm like, man, I might put some money on Incarnate Word upsetting Nevada. I mean, we'll see what the betting lines come out at next week. But if they can get by this schedule, I mean, they could have potentially an FBS win, 2 ranked wins. That typically can get you a seed, right? We've seen seeded teams that have no ranked wins. They already have one, and it's from the Valley. If that doesn't help the voters' eyes, a top 10 team, now it doesn't look like they're top 10 anymore, but it was a top 10 team when they played from the Missouri Valley. That already holds a lot of weight in the pollsters. So, yeah, man, if they can get it done and play how they did this last week, the rest of the season, you could potentially get a seed. I don't think if you drop one game outside of the FBS, you're going to get a seed, though, because the schedule's not that, difficult. So you have to really dominate the schedule outside of Nevada. But yeah, man, I like it. Lindsey Scott, I am sorry. I said I didn't think you were that amazing. You know, I thought you were solid, but a big drop off from Cameron Ward. You played phenomenal. So hats off to Incarnate Word. I was wrong. I'm eating crow, and I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, very impressive. And you just do a quick breakdown here. Go to Nevada. Let's say they lose close. We'll just say that. But Prairie View favored. They really have to beat Southeastern Louisiana, and they have to go to Nichols and win. And we don't know what Nichols will be this year.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of those 2 games, they should be favored against my McNeese State Cowboys. We'll see how they do. Should beat Lamar, Faulkner, Texas A&M Commerce, Houston Baptist, and Northwestern State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are games they should just win. So you kind of fall on 2 road games there, and you see how it goes. So, all right, gentlemen, let's move away from Incarnate Word. Congratulations to them on the big win, and move into another team many folks like to talk about, especially the ones who share the same colors as my McNeese Cowboys, South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. And Dustin Perman and Peter Hagen both want to know, again, if I mispronounce your last names, you guys all know this. I apologize in advance. They want to know the Jacks took a beating in the Iowa game with all the injuries. What's your take-home message after watching the game? Was Iowa's offense just the worst ever, or does SDSU have seriously like the best defense in the league? I like how that's worded. What do you think? I'm going to toss it to you again, Jamie, right off the bat, because you love that hard-nosed smash-mouth football. And what was your takeaway from a game that ended in 7-3 with no touchdowns?
I don't say you don't flush it, obviously, because you're proud of your defensive performance. And I know Iowa hasn't been a whole lot to sneeze at on offense for a few years, but you still held them to 3 points. offense couldn't get anything going. I know that Tucker Kraft got hurt on his one and only catch. Gronowski was in and out. But your offense gave up more points than your defense did. And I know they punted you deep and all that, but you can't give up 2 safeties. It would have made a difference because they didn't score anymore. But I don't think that a poor offensive showing against a Power 5 team like that portends doom for the season. So take the positive of how the defense played, and the offense will be there. I mean, maybe not. Maybe Jason Eck took it all with him to Idaho, and Idaho is going to be the number 2 team when we get there. Chris Hammond could only hope. But I don't think this loss predicts anything for what South Dakota State's going to do this year. I think that when they get into their FCS play, they're going to be a good team. They're going to always do like they do and lose to somebody they shouldn't, which is going to cost them a seed, and then they'll probably have to go to Montana or Montana State in the playoffs and wash, rinse, repeat.
Okay, this to me, I am very interested to see how SDSU performs without Coach Eck and the offensive staff. That to me is a curious takeaway that I have. I'm the one who promoted that SDSU's front 7. I know us on this podcast have all said it, but their defense is going to be legit this year. The secondary we question a little bit because of the youth. Clearly, they have grown up quite a bit, and their front 7 was always bringing back just a ton of freakish talent. Their offensive line lost 3 guys up front they have to replace, so there might be some depth issues there. Pierre Strong was a freak. Isaiah Davis is good, but like lone back in comparison to the young guys behind him. Losing Tucker Kraft sucks. I mean, that's just not good for the FCS. It's not good for NFL draft. It's not good for him as a human. So hopefully he comes back healthy. But you look at what Idaho did. Coach Eck is a motivator of men. Coach Eck knows how to scheme and prepare for big time opponents. And to me, it is a little bit shocking, and I'm giving all credit to how legit SDSU defense is, but I kind of want to roll into their offense a bit. That's shocking to me. I mean, you have 2 amazing receivers on the outside. You've got tight ends upon tight ends, even if Kraft goes out. The offensive line, McCormick and those guys, they are big, beefy, hogs up front. To me, it was just, I know Iowa's legit in their Power 5, but like, what is that slight sliver of difference between NDSU and SDSU in these type of games where it's like, even when SDSU played Minnesota a few years back, like how come just right at the end or something, they just can't get over that hump? I am truly questioning whether Coach Eck will make a lot of impact on this offense in terms of the scheme, the preparation, and everything else, even with all the talent there. Because Eck gave, this is just an NDSU take, he gave us everything. We seemed out-schemed, out-prepared every time that offense came in the past few years. And I don't know, man. I think that offense could be not an overall concern because I think talent will just be talent, but how good will coaching be when you hit the semis and quarterfinals against some of these really quality opponents? There's a lot of time to figure things out. This is a long ways down, but my takeaway is I'm shocked at how bad the offensive performance was and the special teams. Very impressed by the defense. You can knock all day in terms of Iowa's got one of the best defenses ever. I don't know that. I don't know anything about Iowa Big Ten football right now, but I think there would be a little bit of concerns with such a highly vaulted offensive shout out throughout the offseason to them. But we'll have to see how it plays out. Kyler, am I crazy? Is there a little bit more room for concern, or is, like Jamie's saying, a little bit of caution? What do you think?
Man, so Iowa was really solid last year. They did play in the Western Division of the Big Ten, which is quite a bit weaker, but they were solid 10-win team. Now, they did have 6 games where they scored under 20 points last year, so they don't have this phenomenal offense. SDSU's defense did extremely well, especially the run defense, but Iowa's not really known, in my opinion, for having this phenomenal passing offense. But Iowa, South Dakota State, the defense played amazing. You were lucky to hold them only to 7, though, because they had field position all day where it looked like they were in scoring position and somehow just couldn't get it done. And maybe you can attribute that just to South Dakota State's front 7, like Matt said, just being that physical, being that good. So defense, I want to see what you can do against a Missouri Valley passing offense over an Iowa team who's still trying to run the ball a majority of the time. But yeah, the offensive side, that should cause a little bit of concerns. Now, I know Iowa, super good defense. They really do. They are a very good P5 team. For any other program, I would not be given this type of criticism. But SDSU, you've kind of earned it to where we can give you a little bit of criticism because offensively, you should be better than this. Everyone was saying you have, the best weapons in the FCS in terms of running back, quarterback, wide receivers, tight ends. Everyone was saying you have the best weapons in the FCS. And I mean, Gronowski, we all saw you in the spring. Gronowski did not look good. I mean, it is what it is. Isaiah Davis did not look that well. I mean, they averaged 1.1 yards of rushing. It was not a strong performance offensively, but still, to lose to Iowa by only 4, that deserves credit. That is definitely better than what I thought they could do. I thought they were going to lose by 14 plus. So credit where credit's due. You played a really tough physical game against Iowa, but the offensive side should cause for concerns. Now, I don't think they're going to be the worst offense the Missouri Valley's ever seen. I think they'll be fine overall, but there's definitely some learning curves that you got to take from this game. Hopefully you get better in the passing department. Hopefully you can create more space and, actual holes and run through them, because as of right now, it looked really bad week 1.
Yeah, and SDSU, again, like you said, you deserve credit. Any team that loses close. We just got done doing a segment. Hey, all these teams lost close. Good job. But SDSU, welcome to the big time, man. I mean, the stuff you've done the last couple of years throughout the last half decade plus beyond that, beating NDSU, getting into the semis, getting into the natty, like you're going to get this type of criticism. Like when I think it was West Virginia beat James Madison close, that was that was ripped apart. NDSU, you lose to Arizona in 2 weeks. As crazy as the standard is, you're going to get picked apart a little bit. So SDSU overall, I think they're going to be very good. I think they are the type of team that can beat NDSU and Fargo and win a national championship this year. But, maybe there's a few questions here that we have that aren't quite answered. We'll have to see.
10 for 28 and 87 yards is brutal. That is ugly versus anyone.
Yep, it's not good, and we'll have to see if maybe the offensive scheme and the coaching staff had more to do with that as the season progresses. Moving away, though, from the Missouri Valley, let's get into the CAA a little bit. Jamie Williams, of course I want to start with you, man. Kevin Waters has a great question. He says, CAA 2-0 versus the FBS, 2 wins. Is the CAA still the big 3? I threw that last part in there for you, Kevin. All he put was CAA 2-0 versus FBS. But is the CAA still in that big 3 status now? Because they had a pretty impressive showing over this last weekend, even in their losses, but especially their wins. How are you feeling about the CAA now that the Dukes are gone and them as a conference?
Well, I said it weeks ago. Rumors of the CAA demise are grossly overstated. Now, do they have a top-notch national title contender? Probably not. But what they do have is between 6 and 9 really strong, solid teams that could make a playoff run. And you saw 2 of them pick up wins. William and Mary, they destroyed Charlotte. Not even close. Their offensive scheme was just fun to watch. They've got a defense that is way underrated. They got, and I tweeted this during the game, William and Mary led the CAA in rushing offense last year. You think it's JMU, you think it's Villanova. No, it was William and Mary, and they put up about 300 yards this past week. So don't sleep on that. And then, of course, Delaware going into Navy, and that's another team that people think have something going this year, and they picked up a win there, new head coach. I've been a fan of Nolan Henderson since he stepped on the field. CAA had a bunch of injury issues last year at quarterback, and that's where you saw only 2 teams get in the playoffs because everybody else's quarterback got hurt. Well, now the quarterbacks are healthy. New Hampshire picked up a nice win over newcomer Monmouth. Rhode Island was really good against Stony Brook. The 2 FBS wins. Richmond, Kyler highlighted them earlier. Yeah, they lost to Virginia, but still looked okay. Villanova, if we haven't even talked about them, they obliterated Lehigh, which they should have, but they look good doing it. They did what they were supposed to do. The new quarterback, 11 for 15 for 298 and 3 touchdowns. Can't complain about that. Now, Towson, they stink. Hampton stinks. Maine probably stinks. And I talked about Elon earlier. So CAA is not going away. They're going to have a bunch of teams competing for playoff spots, and they're going to get 4 or 5 of them just because they're going to have enough. And maybe they beat each other up and they get 3. But I picked Richmond. I'm going to stand by it because I did it a long time ago. But, gosh, you look through. To me, William & Mary was the most impressive team this week. And I know Charlotte is garbage. But just watching the scheme of that offense, watching that defense, they're gonna cause some problems for people this year.
And Jamie still maybe a little CAA proud outside of Flow Sports. You feeling like the Delaware coach there right now, just so bleeping proud, right on national TV. Kyler, are you bleeping proud of the CAA or no?
The CAA is definitely still a top tier conference. I still think they are behind the Missouri Valley. I still think they are behind the Big Sky. And the CAA was regressing ever since 2018. But this year, I know it's just week one. And again, this is all an overreaction. We have to see how the season plays out. But as of week one, the CAA looks strong. It looks more similar to a 2017 CAA type of conference outside of a title contender. They do not have a James Madison. When I'm looking at the CAA, I see 6 potential playoff caliber teams. If you have 6 potential playoff caliber teams, that's like the Missouri Valley. That's like the Big Sky. That is an extremely tough conference. But yeah, some of their teams like Towson going toe-to-toe with Bucknell, really bad. That should not have happened. They went to overtime. Maine against New Mexico, I get it's an FBS, but 0-41. New Mexico's not a powerhouse. Albany just got the shellacked by Baylor, but that's kind of what it's supposed to be. Lehigh did what they were supposed to do against Villanova, right? Villanova was supposed to murder them, and they did. There's still a running joke in the FCS Fans Nation on how did Lehigh get into the playoffs. If you are an OG, you'll remember that.
How did Lehigh get in?
Yeah, but New Hampshire looks like they're potentially on the right track back. So yeah, looking at the CA, they are definitely still a top 3 conference. I don't think the ASUN's better than them. I don't think the SoCon's better than them. The SoCon's surprising me too, but I think they're still the big 3 right now until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I'm starting to maybe feel a little bit of confidence, but we'll see if that my reaction to the CAA. Well, we got 2 more questions coming up here that might give you a little more details on how I'm feeling about them. Let's roll into the Kennesaw Owls, hooty hoo, who had a kind of upside down weekend, as owls can turn their heads all the way upside down. As the rushing game did not work out too well for Kennesaw. And they ended up being defeated this weekend versus Samford. Very surprising to probably all the FCS community. And there's a lot of questions here. And 2 questions come from Greg Garner and Jacob Martinez. Combined, they asked, do you think the blocking rule change is hurting option teams like Kennesaw State? And thoughts on Kennesaw's worst offensive performance this weekend? Jacob is also requesting, Kyler, that you go a little bit easy on triple option teams when you answer this. Just remember, he's running the Pick'em Challenge, which if you guys are on FCS Fans Nation, the Facebook page, there's a Pick'em Challenge every single week. Make sure to pay attention to it. We will pin it to the top of the page weekly. Thank you, Jacob Martinez, for taking over that. So maybe we'll be a little nicer to him. What do you think, Kyler? 17-27, Samford beats Kennesaw. What's your reaction?
I have always said the triple option is the best offense you can run if you want to be a title contending team. I don't know what Jacob is talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't even get through it without laughing.
There we go.
Show the replay. Show the tape.
Yeah, here's the deal. The triple option I already think is an outdated system. I don't think it works versus the elite. And then you take away one of the things that can make it somewhat successful. It's going to hurt the triple option as a package. I think the next 2 seasons, we are seeing the demise and complete death of the triple option. If you're not getting away from it now, well, you're going to be in for a long next few seasons. Yeah, it looked ugly. Now, credit to Samford. I do still think Kennesaw can beat a lot of teams that Samford can't. I will say that. I think a lot of these games, it has to do with styles make for matchups. Samford had a really improved D-line. They stuck to their man. They played very smart football. They didn't do too much. Offensively, they weren't great. Defensively, they weren't amazing either, but they stuck to their man. They played very disciplined football, and their D-line did extremely well. And guess what? If you have a really good front 7, or at least a disciplined front 7, you can beat a triple option team. It is just that. You don't have to do much. Shepard did not look good. He still got his rushing in. Throwing the ball was no bueno. I'll just say that. So Yeah, I mean, I was shocked. I did not think Kennesaw State would look like this after the chop block rule, but I mean, it was pretty tough. They just did not look good at all running that option. And Samford, credit to Samford. I mean, you stuck disciplined football. I mean, what more can you say? So I don't know. I don't know how Kennesaw State is going to be moving forward. It's kind of a question mark in the air, but you got to figure out something because, yeah, there's other good defenses that you're playing. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, they didn't have crazy turnover from last year either. So like you would hate to
No.
just point to a blocking rule, but if you don't have crazy turnover, you return the coaching staff, the QB's there, the offensive line got quite a bit of praise from some offseason articles I was reading. I don't know. Maybe that blocking rule has more damage than you realize, or maybe we're valuing Samford. Maybe we're not giving that credit to it. And this is the thing. Now everybody's pointing fingers and going, listen to these podcast experts not be able to give an answer. Well, this is kind of, this is new information. You got to take things in. You got to adjust. And I'm a little confused by this because I think we all talked about Kennesaw possibly being that sneaky team into at least the semis. Quarterfinals almost guaranteed with some turnover of teams going to the FBS. I am very surprised by this one. And Jamie, I'd love a little bit more clarification in terms of this blocking scheme in Kennesaw because I just don't get it, man.
Well, it was definitely a good weekend for the crowd that says polls aren't valid until October.
Oh, yeah.
Rev and others. But, Kyler hit on it too about matchups. Samford, they've got a good front seven. They got a terrible secondary. You don't need a good secondary against Kennesaw.
No.
You need to stop the run, and they did. And then their offense was good enough, better than good enough. Michael Harris had 4 touchdown passes. Kendall Watson, 9 for 187 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of credit to Samford there. But I kind of do. I never thought the blocking rule was going to make that big of a difference. But the Citadel, whatever, Kennesaw, Navy, Army, all lost. All triple option teams. None of them were really in their games. I know Army scored 28.
Oofta.
And I know I mentioned some FBS teams, but got to drive the point home. I mean, the Citadel lost by 19 to Campbell, who a lot of people like, so we'll see if that's something.
Mm-hmm.
But, Samford's going to get obliterated by Western Carolina because they're not going to be able to stop the pass. But Kennesaw's got to figure something out. Xavier Shepard, even if he has to go to the pass the way he played this past week, not even close to good enough. 5 completions. Yeah, he had 135 yards. One of them was 72 because guess what? He threw the ball up and 3 Samford DBs tried to jump the route and they all missed. And the dude went 72. That's more than half the yards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little concerned about Kennesaw. I wasn't. I was shocked. I was happy for Samford to play very well. But apparently Chris Hatcher at home has a pretty sparkling record at Samford, they were saying on the broadcast. So maybe I shouldn't have been as surprised. Maybe I should find out what Kevin thought, but he was probably drunk by then.
No,
So-
Kevin definitely said Kennesoft. That's his kind of trademark, Kennesoft. So he was all for it. He definitely, I think, was predicting this. But he also thought the Citadel would run over Campbell. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just soak on Homer.
Yeah, he owns it. I know
Absolutely. We all love Kevin.
That's right.
That's the best part. You got to own
right.
it. If you are who
That's
you
right.
are. Right.
Yep.
So-
We will all own when we are wrong. We will all, I mean, I've already done it like 3 times on this podcast.
Yeah.
I've never been wrong this much to start a season. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kennesaw's got to get their crap together, or it's going to go downhill real fast because they're not even in a great conference. So they're not going to get much of a chance to bounce back. They play Cincinnati this week. I don't believe they've ever started 0-2. Now they will. Wofford, they should, that's another team that runs a similar offense. Jacksonville State, see what they can do. They do play UT Martin, so Austin P and Eastern Kentucky. That's who they finished with. So the schedule is actually not as bad as I thought it was.
No, they got a decent
They've got
schedule.
a decent schedule for being Kennesaw State. So we'll see, but they've got a lot to clean up. And we always say don't overreact on one week. So let's not completely overreact. Let's let them regroup, see what happens, not this week, but the next. And we can form a thought, down the road, see if it continues to bang on them.
Good stuff, guys. And if I'm ever wrong, I will definitely react to it and let everyone know. Hasn't happened yet. So let's move into the final question here for the Big Seven. I love this one. Joshua Hoffman. He's going to have another great quick hit one for us. But he says, make an overreaction that could be reasonable at year's end. I love this question. Week 1, everybody's on edge. Time to do an overreaction. Okay, I've got one to share with you fine folks. And I hope I don't just take everything away from everybody. But my overreaction is going to be that
Cornell.
the South Dakota State offense is not as good without Coach Eck because of a coaching issue more than a talent issue. North Dakota State's defensive line and linebacker depth being a little bit thinner than anticipated might not keep them up to par. Therefore, the Montana Griz, who looked the complete part, may in fact be your best team and your national champion at the end of the season. I know opponents were different, situations were different, but the front seven of NDSU, we'll have to see. It might have to grow up a little bit. And SDSU's offense, I don't know. Coaching turnover, maybe the Griz with those transfers, that depth, and that coaching staff and their schedule, maybe things happen for the Griz. So there you go. That is an overreaction amongst the top 3 that I currently am going to see that I could see be reasonable at year's end in terms of things finishing out. Jamie, Kyler, maybe a few eye rolls or maybe a little bit of anger there in my take, but what do you got, Jamie? What's an overreaction for you?
Southern Utah is going to be the best team in the WAC.
Whoa, the Thunderbirds. Their coach is going to hear this on Twitter. He's going to tag you. That guy is not afraid to tweet at you.
Delane Fitzgerald, why don't you look up where he came from?
You're taking the Thunderbirds to win the WAC.
Absolutely.
Man, I thought I'd be subtle a little bit, and Jamie's like, "This is it. Bank on it."
Go ahead, pull him up and see where he went to school.
I'm gonna Google that as Kyler gives us his. Kyler, what's an overreaction that could be reasonable at the end?
I'm gonna say Matt's wasn't that bad. Jamie's was pretty bad.
Just wait.
Because they beat St. Thomas.
Nope.
A D3 team who has no
I have
scholarships.
faith in the damn coach.
All right. Well, we'll see. I think Southern Utah stinks. They just played a D3 team who still has D3 players on their roster, and all the Dakota people who thought St. Thomas is good, you guys are no. I'll just say that. I will hold it to a PG conversation. My overreaction is, man, the Missouri Valley isn't as good as we all thought it was. They have 2 elite teams in North Dakota State and South Dakota State. I think we can all agree on that. 2 of the 3 maybe title contenders for the FCS National Championship. Outside of that, Missouri State, their offensive line looked really bad. Southern Illinois, they didn't look very good. I don't see a lot of promise outside of the rest of the Missouri Valley outside those 2 top teams. So, yes, they are still probably one of the better conferences. But my overreaction is the Missouri Valley, week 1, does not look as strong as it has in previous years. And maybe they are not the best overall conference from top to bottom anymore.
Be very interesting. We'll have to see how Sacramento State does as the 4 seed in the playoffs before we can make a final determination on that. See how that plays out. Okay, that finishes our Big 7. Hope your guys' week 7 was as smooth as that, or I'm sorry, week 1 was as smooth as that. And let's roll into some quick hit questions.
Just because your question is answered quickly doesn't mean we don't care. These are the quick hit questions of the week.
Alrighty. I love how I said things went smooth as I said the wrong number there right into the next segment. But hey, what are you going to do? Welcome to the Quick Hits, guys. This is where we get everybody's questions answered and give everybody a shout out. And Kyler, this one is for you, my man. We're starting off with your Eastern Washington Eagles Power Hour, the podcast you run on the network here. How does Eastern do in its next 5-game stretch, which is brutal? Ryan Grant wants to know, man.
Yeah, Eastern Washington probably has the most brutal stretch of 5 games, I think, in the nation. So we go to Oregon next week. Of course, we saw how they performed against Georgia. They did not look good. I would anticipate Oregon being pretty upset and taking out on Eastern Washington this week. Then right after that, we go to Montana State, the top 4 team in the nation, who looked pretty good in the second half versus McNeese. Then we play at Florida, who just beat a top 10 team. They're most likely going to be ranked. Then we go at Weber, which is a tough place to play, especially if they're healthy. And Jay Hill, outside of NDSU, has probably coached the best ball against Eastern Washington since he's been a part of the program. Then we have to play Sac State. So you're looking at, we're going to play probably 2 ranked FBS programs and 3 top 15 FCS programs in a 5-week stretch. And most of them are on the road besides 2. So it's going to be brutal. I'll say that. I think Eastern Washington this last week actually showed a lot of promise. People, if you're not paying attention to off-season stuff, a lot of Eastern Washington fans, or not even Eastern Washington fans, but fans across the nation, thought Eastern Washington was just going to dominate Tennessee State, which I thought was insane because of the talent Tennessee State was bringing in. I thought we answered a lot of questions. Offensively, we still look really good. Defensively, same issues that we had last year. Pretty good against the pass, not very good against the run. The D line looks better, though, so that's promising. The offensive line looks good. The wide receivers look good. So it seems like we're maybe not that much off from last year's Eastern Washington team. Definitely a little bit behind, but not that drastic. So I think if we win 1 game, that's more realistic out of the next 5. If we win 2, we're probably a playoff caliber team. If we win 3, we're probably a semifinal caliber team. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think we probably win 1. It's going to be in between Montana State or Sac State, in my opinion. I don't think we win Weber. I think we have a better shot versus one of those 2 teams, and it's still not a great shot. They both do what Eastern Washington doesn't do well. They run the ball extremely well. Sac State just had 344 yards. Montana State didn't even have a Fonze, and their true freshman, just had like 140 yards rushing. It's going to be a very tough stretch. So get ready, Eastern Washington fans. But if we can pull off 2 wins, celebrate, buy your mom a present, send me something, because I'll be real happy.
Eagles Power Hour will be off the hook if Eastern gets those 3 wins, even 2 wins over the next 5 games. Going to be tough, but it will be interesting to see.
Yeah, we're not
where
getting
the
3
Eagles
wins,
stand.
but I'll be super pumped if we get 2.
It'll be jacked up at that point. All right, Jamie, here you go. John Collins says the Samford Bulldogs are going to shock a lot of people. It's just the beginning, but I bet you one thing, they are going to put up more points than Oregon did against Georgia. All right, Jamie, what do you think? Samford Bulldogs, a team to be reckoned with this year? You feeling a little bit more confident in them?
We'll see. Can't really overreact. I like I said, they played very well. Good job on the front 7. The offense did its job. And they'll have a chance to do that against some SoCon teams. But like I said earlier, Western Carolina is going to obliterate them just because they're not going to be able to stop the pass. So we'll see. I think they're still, at best, a mid-pack SoCon team. Really good win to start the season. So I don't want to take any luster off of that at all. It's a really, really good win. But again, don't overreact. You're not as good or as bad as you look. Maybe we'll see, but I don't think they're a playoff team. I think they have a shot to maybe make some trouble for some people, especially if that full defense is improved and they can be consistent all year. That's what they've been missing, because they've always had offense, and it looks like they still have offense. Jay Stanton's an excellent running back, and he didn't really even get going for the most part this past week. So I could see them threatening people, but I still don't see them as a playoff team. But maybe they'll shock people. Maybe John will be right, and then I'll take my hat off to him.
Michael Hayers, a really great performance. 4 touchdowns. Samford, has produced some pretty good quarterbacks down there. So 4 touchdown passes ain't nothing to, not bat an eye at, especially against Kennesaw. So very impressive performance by him. Good percentage as well in terms of his accuracy. Guys, we have a great question here from Dustin Helton, the Rev. He wants to know, Incarnate Word and SIU, is University of Incarnate Word that good, or did the transfer portal work against SIU? Kyler, reemphasize this, man. Is is UIW actually that good?
They look that good. I mean that's about all I can say. Are they that good? Again, it's week 1. Don't overreact. But when you just put up 64-29 against a top 10 team from the Missouri Valley, no one else has probably beaten Southern Illinois like that all year. Maybe North Dakota State if they play. I haven't looked at everyone's schedule, but I would be shocked if anyone else dominates Southern Illinois the way that Incarnate Word does. So again, let's not overreact. But as of right now, they do look that good. They look, I don't want to say better than Cameron Ward because Cameron Ward was doing some insane stuff there, but they didn't look like they dropped off. If anything, it looked like their defense got a lot better, which is something that they were missing the last few seasons under Ward. And then their offense looks about the same, maybe even a little bit better. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm an Incarnate Word fan, I'm super excited at the season. You have a chance to have one potential loss, maybe 2. You're probably a playoff team. Yeah, you look good.
Yeah, it looked really, really good. And speaking of the Rev, how concerned was the panel about Helton with the SFA losing at half? Could he have handled an 0-2 start, says Jason Plotkin. He wants to know, could the Rev have handled it? I will say this, Jason, during the moment, probably not for the Rev. But let me just tell you, I follow him on Twitter. He's awesome on there. And typically after an SFA loss, he always has the sun will rise tomorrow type of mentality. And then he's in his pool drinking a soft, nice, awesome beer in a koozie he got from somebody. Yeah, so he's still doing okay even after a loss. But, man, it would have been brutal for his heart if they had gone down 0-2. So glad they pulled off that close victory. And you guys think the Rev would have been okay?
He was pretty dejected in that group chat. When I got home from the game, he was pretty sad.
Yeah, but afterwards, I think he always needs 24 hours. Yeah,
we don't disclose what's in the group chat, but we will say at least they won because he wasn't happy about the win, right? So just think if they lost. But at the end of the day, like you said, Matt, he's got a pool. He also lives at the beach. I mean, he's got a mansion. Who doesn't? Dustin Helton is living the life. So yes, even though his football team looks really bad this year to start the season, Dustin looks really good in life.
Yeah, that's what I'd like. I would agree with that. Speaking of sunshine and the beach, Brandon Anderson wants to know what circumstances allow JMU to form a full Sunbelt schedule, but Sam Houston and Jacksonville State have to wait another year. He's curious just on that. Jamie, and what's your insight there, my man? Why is JMU just bowl game eligible? Off we go. What was the difference?
Yeah, I wish we were bowl eligible. Probably not till next year. We still got to do a waiver. But
sorry, yeah, off on that.
The difference to me is JMU had been preparing for that move for a number of years, and also had the support of Keith Gill, commissioner of the Sun Belt, who is the FBF version of Tom Wistrcill, which means the best commissioner in there. So he worked with our administration, with other teams, to allow us to put together a full FBS schedule this year. And also got to give a little hat tip to Middle Tennessee because we needed one more game to be able to play the full schedule, and they had somebody cancel on them. So they said, we'll come to Harrisonburg. They're probably a little upset that they did it, but that's okay. To me, Sam Houston and Jacksonville, on the other hand, kind of jumped at an opportunity that got presented to them, and they're actually going through the normal transition period. So they'll be building scholarships. That's why they're ineligible for playoffs this year, playing an FCS schedule. Next year, they'll probably play a half and half. And then in the third year, which would be 2024, they'll be fully eligible, just like anybody else moving up. What JMU is doing is unprecedented. Huge credit to Jeff Bourne. Huge, our athletic director. Huge credit to John Alger, school president. Charlie King just retired. Huge credit to him. I know a lot of people don't know those names, but I do, and I appreciate what they did because this team is ready to go, and we'll put the waiver in to hopefully be bowl eligible next year and make a bowl. So that's the difference between how we approached it, and we've been approaching it, versus what I feel like Sam Houston and Jacksonville State got an offer, didn't want to get left out, and accepted. I think JSU is much better situated than Sam Houston in the future moving forward, facilities and all that, to be successful in Conference USA. So I hope they're both successful moving up. But I'm obviously very excited for how my team has started, and I'm ready for more.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how those teams transition up. Congrats to them and their fans in moving into the next step. And that we'll move quickly through your next question. Jason Plotkin, who had two of us for us, he said, is JSU, should they really have beef over the ASUN being declaring them ineligible for the league championship? No, not at all. And we've answered this one last week as well. You know, they're getting more scholarships. They're moving, transitioning up, and conferences are going to look out for themselves. So Jacksonville State, you're going to have a lot more healthy FBS money, revenue, and changes in the future. So being ineligible just this year for a conference championship, that comes with the territory, and you won't worry about it when you're playing in fun bowl games here a few years from now. So
yeah, you can't get mad when you're playing at a massive advantage. I'll just say that.
No, not at all. SFA or UIW, Stephen F. Austin or University of Incarnate Word on a neutral site. Will Siller wants to know that answer. Gentlemen, picks real quick. Who are you going to take?
Will you, on his birthday, will you say it's Will Seiler? He's going to punch you in the face. On his birthday, you call him Siller?
Siller? Seiler. No. Seiler. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
I think so, unless now I'm messed up. And now he's going to be like, Kyler, you're a freaking jerk. I'm pretty sure it's Seiler.
I totally steered into the skid there, and I was just like, maybe I'll just try to throw Kyler back off because I don't know.
One L, buddy. Long eye.
With Will, I just simply say Will when I see him, and I give him a hug because I see him in Frisco. I don't say his last name. So
all right. Well, I'll pick the game. Also, happy birthday, Will Seiler.
Yeah, happy birthday, Will. I would definitely at this point take SFA because they're going to end up in the semifinals. So I'll take them.
Matt has never been wrong once in his life, and he's not wrong again.
Just like Furman, here we go.
Yeah, if Matt in the preseason says he really loves a team and thinks they have a good chance and it's not North Dakota State, just stop paying attention to Matt.
Only for fall seasons. Spring
only
seasons,
for fall.
I'm 1-0. 1-0 in spring seasons.
Solid spring. As of right now, I think you have to take Incarnate Word. Now, hopefully Stephen F. Austin, because I like Dustin. I like, the Texas team that's a little closer to me. Actually, they're both probably the same distance. Crap. I got a lumberjack hat. So you know what? I like SFA better. But man, I think right now you just got to take Incarnate Word. They look like the real deal. What SFA looks like, maybe they had a little bit too much preseason love, and it gave them an extra boost of confidence that maybe they thought they were this unbeatable force when they really haven't beat any good team in the last few seasons. And it's kind of showing. So yeah, I got to take Incarnate Word right now.
Yeah, I like how, by the way, happy birthday, Will, but I like how Will is obviously trying to piss off his co-host. I'm on board for that. And he's going to make me have to do it because looking at what I've seen so far, it's Incarnate Word is probably not close. Sorry, Rev. Y'all can battle that out on the Wax Sun podcast, though.
Yes, sir.
That's great. And make sure you subscribe
also
to
part of the FCS Fans Nation Network, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Are you not entertained?
You beat me to the shameless plug. FCS Fans Nation Network. We have like 8 podcasts and growing that are on our YouTube channel. And the Wax Sun is one of those with Will and the Rev. Good stuff, guys. I'm sure we're going to get more questions about this in the future, but here's Seth Meyer asking, is NDSU, is it still a foregone conclusion that the Bison will beat Arizona after all we saw in this last week? I've been trying to say this. Number one, I'm the most cautious NDSU fan you'll find when they play FBS teams. I always am nervous, and I always think NDSU is probably going to lose. But I did know Arizona brought in one of the best young QBs that's out there throughout the Pac-12 and some transfers, and they had a coaching changeover. And that can mean a totally different season. It's not like just this disheveled program. There's always going to be upside. And I thought Arizona might be on the up and up, and they looked good against the San Diego State University Aztecs, the SDSU of the FBS G5. So, no, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that NDSU is going to go down there and win. I don't think NDSU is going to be favored in that game. And I think it's going to be closer than people realize. And I think NDSU could lose. So, no, I'm not going to sit here and just say that NDSU is guaranteed to win that game like everybody else is. And we'll see how it plays out. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more questions on that next week. But just be cautious, Bison fans, before you think you're going to go trounce the Wildcats. I threw this one in here, guys, because we didn't have time. The game had not been completed by the time we got questions in. So from Matthew Frazee, just some reactions from you two gentlemen. Jackson State destroying the Rattlers. What are your reactions to that and just some thoughts? Kyler, I know you've got some big emotions on this.
Well, thanks for throwing this question in, Matthew Frazee. I'm glad you want us to give you a shout out for no freaking reason.
Oh, this is whoever this Matthew Frazee guy is. He comes up with good questions.
He comes up with good questions. Man, this game, JSU is for real. Jackson State is absolutely for real. I mean, we just gave praise for Florida A&M last week with 20 less scholarships, even boarding buses, and, playing decent against North Carolina, who just went toe-to-toe with App State and got the win, right? Florida A&M looked better against North Carolina. They didn't look even remotely good against Jackson State. Jackson State is by far, in my opinion, the most talented roster in the FCS. They are, and it looks like the coaching has been improved. Again, it's just week one. Let's not try and overreact, but holy crap. Dion's kid looks fantastic. He looks like he could be a front runner to win the Walter Payton. He was already the Jerry Rice. He was already the Jerry Rice Award winner last year, and he only looks like he got better. He got better weapons. They are playing more physical ball. They're playing more disciplined ball. They are definitely more talented. I put Jackson State as the number 9 team in my top 25. And honestly, I don't know many teams right now that can go toe-to-toe with them throughout a whole game. Yes, there's a few like North Dakota State, Montana, South Dakota State that I still think can beat them by double digits. But everyone else, it'd be either a close game or a loss. I think Jackson State is that good. I'm believing in the hype. I gave them a lot of kind of flack last year, but they look good. I mean, that's all you can say. They looked absolutely dominant. They look like a giant FBS team against Florida A&M.
Yeah, you're not crazy, Kyler, because I'm just going to name some teams. Jackson State, how good they look, the talent they brought in, the coaching, everything. I'll name some teams. Chattanooga, Stephen F. Austin, Southern Illinois. Heck, I'll go all the way up there. Missouri State. Are those teams where you're just like, oh, absolutely. Those teams are undoubtedly better than Jackson State. How about ETSU, Sacramento State, Kennesaw? Those are teams in the preseason top 25. You're going to sit there and just be like, no doubt, Jackson State's worse than them. Man, your number 9 is not crazy and very justified. That's going to be my little reaction.
And they're going to beat Tennessee State next week by 18 plus.
Yeah, the talent's undeniable. So maybe the change in the game hat Twitter guy who always is saying how amazing they are, I don't think he's trolling. So Jamie, reaction to JSU, and then we'll get to our final question here in quick hits.
Yeah, it won't take much time. I think y'all covered it. Very, very impressive. A big improvement over last year. And I believe I saw, because the people are going to track him, Travis Hunter, they threw at him 4 times, 0 completions, 2 pass breakups. Might be a pretty good player. Just keep your eye on him. And Shadur Sanders,
amazing.
3 incompletions all game, and he threw the ball a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
5 touchdowns. So
I'm surprised at Travis Hunter. Like I didn't think they had a coach on that staff that knew anything about playing cornerback or was ever any good or anything. No. I didn't know.
Never.
I didn't know that.
One of the worst.
I'm a Cowboys fan. I love you, Dion. Even though, you guys called my Cowboys out last week. All right, final question here, guys, in quick hits, and then we'll get to our game prediction. Joshua Hoffman sent us a photo, DM message, and he said, would you bring the following to a tailgate? So let me get this image pulled up here for you guys. I'm going to share this on the screen. This is from Joshua. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out. This is the image. It appears to be Henton's creamiest potato salad. It is being served from 7-Eleven, and it's being served in a milk carton. This is potato salad in a milk carton. There's one sticker on it. This is the dead giveaway that it's terrible. There's one sticker on it that just says fresh. That is just like, if you have to put that sticker on, it's probably terrible. Boy, as an NDSU fan, I can't imagine bringing this thing to the actual tailgate. If it's not just basic Busch Light Doritos or something basic, oh man. Kyler, Jamie, you going to bring the creamiest potato salad in a milk carton to a tailgate?
What in the Midwest is going on?
This
Like,
this must be a
First
South
is-
Dakota
is-
thing.
first is it's what is it? Gray duck, blue duck, or something. Goose. Then it's hot pies instead of casseroles or whatever it is, hot dishes. And then you have jugs of the creamiest potato salad from 7-Eleven. Jesus Christ, go up to Canada. Go to Canada, Midwest. I'm done with you. No, that looks horrible. I'm not bringing that. I'm bringing Joshua Hoffman instead
Yeah.
of that. Joshua
I'll
Hoffman,
bring
you and I
Josh.
can have fun at the tailgate, but if you bring that, I am punching you in the gut.
I mean, I'm probably
After
not
you-
bringing it, but I might eat it.
Here comes
Oh,
Jamie. I'm
Jamie's gonna eat
intrigued.
it.
Maybe it's what in the South is that. Jamie's
Yeah,
like,
I
I,
mean,
like
but
NASCAR.
really,
I like potato
Okay,
salad.
you're damn right. NASCAR race just finished a little bit ago, and I was watching it. Gosh darn it! But take that out of a. Let's just take it out of a container. Let's look at the packaging. You know, Kyler, your ugly packaging, but you got a good heart. Same thing with this. Take it out of the packaging, put it in a nice container. It's still nice potato salad.
Yeah.
I'd eat it. I don't think I'd bring it, but I'd eat it.
Jamie,
I'd probably have.
7-Eleven
issues
potato
after that.
salad? What's
Yeah,
next?
it's fresh.
7-Eleven sushi.
Did you not see it fresh?
It's fresh. It's fresh.
Josh, come to Frisco. Bring a few containers. We'll have a real party down there.
We'll have a
man.
good time.
We'll have a good time. Oh my goodness. Guys, that ends our quick hit questions. Thanks to everyone who sent their questions in. We got to every one of them this week. Let's do a little bit of prediction for our game of the week.
This is the matchup you should be paying attention to. This is the FCS Fans Nation Game of the Week.
All right, guys. It would be very easy to just do the ranked matchup. I believe you're going to look at a playoff rematch of UT Martin and Missouri State this upcoming week. But that's just a little too simple, honestly. Little too simple to make a prediction on. I messaged the guys here before the show, and I think I got some good-hearted reactions of like, let's do this one instead. Here you go. We're going to do 1-0 Campbell at 1-0 William and Mary. And in my notes, I have 1-0 soon-to-be likely ranked William and Mary after their FBS victory. I think they were receiving votes in the FCS Top 25 according to the website with stats. So I can't imagine with the amount of votes they were receiving that they wouldn't jump at least into the 25-24 range. So we've got some rank here. So the Camels, or William and Mary, the Tribe, a very intriguing matchup in between, in my opinion, that one team that everyone's super hot on because of hot recruiting classes and an okay, upcoming futuristic look. And William and Mary, who Jamie said is very high on, that kind of just lost a lot of close games last year and is showing a lot of promise. So I'll just go right off the bat. I think William and Mary is there now, a little bit kind of Stephen F. Austin-ish with the way I talked about Stephen F. Austin. William and Mary might actually be that from what Jamie has talked about. So I'll take William and Mary. I'll take him to win at a score of 27, actually to 13. So I like them to win pretty hefty. Kyler, I'll save Jamie for last since this is kind of his baby. What do you think? The Camels or the Tribe?
I will love for the Camels to win. Kevin Marshall said watching this game, he thought Campbell looks like an easy top 25 team. The only reason why they look like a top 25 team is because they're playing the Citadel, who is not a top 85 team. So I am sorry to say, as of right now, I think it's actually going to be a good game. I wouldn't be surprised if Campbell wins, but I'm going to pick William and Mary. I think week one, they just looked better. Beating Charlotte, a bad FBS team. Yes, they were a bad FBS team, but they handled them is more impressive to me than beating the Citadel. So give me William and Mary right now. I think they're a little more dynamic across the board, but watch out. Campbell's building something special. It's just going to take them a few years to get to that mark. A lot of talent coming in, but they're really young. They're really young. Give them a few more years. But yeah, no, this is actually a really good game. I think it's a 55-45 game, 50-50 game. But give me William and Mary in a very close, let's say 28-24 kind of game.
All right. The Tribe takes two of them. Jamie, clean sweep here, or you got some faith in the young Camels?
Clean sweep. Also, one point of information here in the next year, that's a conference matchup. Campbell moving to the CAA.
That's
so
right. Good call.
Good preview for CAA for Campbell, who I really like what they're doing. They're making the right moves at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Really like the way they're building that athletic department.
Yeah.
But I think, like you've said, William & Mary's there now. Mike London has been building for a few years. I have a lot of faith in Mike Mentor at Campbell, but I've always liked Mike London. Unfortunately, he's coached at two schools that I really can't stand, Richmond and Virginia. So I'm going to still go with William & Mary, obviously, probably in that 30 to 20 range. But the offense with just the creativity, the defense led by Nate Lynn, I will say his name probably 20 more times this year. I have a lot of faith in William & Mary, and my confidence in them is growing. And like we all said, we know Charlotte stinks. They're terrible. But William & Mary beat them 41-24.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't close. They blew them out. So, yeah, Tribe, 30-20.
All righty, we'll take William and Mary for a clean sweep. We'll see if we go 0-3 or 3-0 next week. Should be a fun matchup, along with some other pretty intriguing ones coming up in week 2 of FCS football. But this does end episode 3 of season 6 of the FCS Fans Nation podcast. We'd like a big shout out to all our current listeners and everyone who's jumping on board. We continue to skyrocket in terms of our YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Music, everything. Subscribership, whatever. I don't even know how to say it. Thank you so much for subscribing, guys. We really appreciate it. We're working hard to make this podcast even better for you. And we're going to have some very, very intriguing, cool things coming up here. So make sure you click that subscribe button. If you have questions and if you listen to this podcast and said they didn't talk about my team, make sure you join our Facebook and Twitter pages. Look on Sunday for the weekly post, and we will get you your shout out and your team mentioned. For now, Mr. Williams, final thoughts into week 2 before I close her out. What do you got?
If we get as much excitement from week 2 that we got from week 1, then we're all in. We're looking at another fun, crazy, wild week. And that's what I'm hoping for the whole season. And let's go. We wet our beak with a solid week 1, and the season's on. Let's go.
Let's get more chaos. More chaos is good. All right, we'll see if it gets chaotic next week, and we'll be back next week with you. Enjoy your Labor Day holiday. Thanks for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Oh.
Thank you for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred listening platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, or even YouTube. And make sure to follow our FCS Fans Nation social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for listening to the premier podcast for FCS football. Boom.
Mother trucker.
Hey, Mother Trucker.
Mother trucker. I'm buying a new Mac.